What if the most disciplined people you've ever seen aren't actually fighting themselves every single morning? What if they're not white-knuckling through their routines or grinding through sheer willpower while everyone else sleeps? Here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody in the self-help world wants to admit. Discipline is not a personality trait you're either born with or you're not. It's a system. And today, I'm going to give you 7 habits that will make you genuinely addicted to that system in a way that feels less like punishment and more like something you physically cannot stop doing. Stay with me through all 7, because the last 2 are the ones that most people skip, and they're also the ones that make everything else actually stick. Before we get into the habits themselves, I want you to understand something about how addiction works, because we're going to use it against itself in the best possible way. Your brain releases dopamine not just when you achieve something, but when you anticipate achieving something. That anticipation loop is what keeps people scrolling through social media for hours. It's what keeps gamblers at the table long after they should have walked away. And it's what we're going to engineer inside your discipline practice so that your brain starts craving structure the same way it craves entertainment. That's the game we're playing today. Habit 1. Define your non-negotiables the night before. Most people wake up and immediately start negotiating with themselves. Should I work out? Maybe I'll do it later. I could start that project now or give myself just 5 more minutes. By the time you've had 3 of those internal conversations, your willpower is already leaking out. The most disciplined people on the planet eliminate that negotiation entirely by making decisions the night before. Not big life decisions. Small, specific, daily decisions. You decide the exact time you're waking up. You decide the first task you will do. You write it down somewhere visible. When morning comes, there's nothing to decide. You just execute. This works because decision fatigue is a real neurological phenomenon. Every choice you make costs mental energy. When you front-load those choices the night before, you wake up with a full tank and 0 excuses. Your only job in the morning is to do what past you already decided. That shift alone can change everything. Habit 2. Build what I call an identity anchor. Here's the problem with goal setting as motivation. Goals are in the future, and your brain, which is wired for the present, doesn't respond that well to future rewards when present discomfort is staring it in the face. That's why most people can't stay disciplined even when they desperately want the goal. The solution is to stop being goal-oriented and start being identity-oriented. Instead of saying, I want to become fit, you say, I am someone who moves their body every single day. Instead of I'm trying to build a business, you say I am an entrepreneur who works on their craft daily. That might sound like a small semantic difference, but it's not. When your behavior is attached to your identity, the cost of skipping feels like a betrayal of who you are, not just a missed opportunity to get something you want. Discipline becomes self-defense rather than self-torture. Habit 3. Engineer your environment before you engineer your behavior. This is where most people get the whole discipline thing completely backwards. They try to change their actions without changing their surroundings, and then they wonder why it's so hard. Your environment is constantly sending signals to your brain about what to do next. A phone on your desk signals distraction. A gym bag by the door signals movement. A cluttered workspace signals chaos. A clean desk with your most important task already written on a piece of paper signals focus. Every single object in your environment is a cue that either pulls you toward discipline or away from it. So before you rely on motivation or willpower, spend 20 minutes redesigning the physical space where you spend most of your time. Remove the friction from the habits you want, and add friction to the habits you're trying to eliminate. Want to read more? Put the book on your pillow. Want to scroll less? Put the charger in a different room from your bed. Environment design is effort you do once that pays you back every single day. Habit 4. Use the 2-minute rule as a launching pad. You've probably heard of the 2-minute rule before. If something takes less than 2 minutes, do it now. But I want to reframe how you use it, because most people treat it as a productivity tip and miss the deeper psychological mechanism. The 2-minute rule isn't really about getting small tasks done. It's about defeating the resistance that exists between you and starting. The hardest part of almost any disciplined action is the gap between thinking about it and actually beginning. That gap is where motivation gets murdered and procrastination grows. When you commit to just 2 minutes, you bypass the resistance because your brain doesn't trigger the same level of avoidance for something small and time-limited. And here's what happens almost every single time. You start, 2 minutes pass, and you keep going. Because starting is the hardest part. Momentum is far easier to maintain than it is to create. The 2-minute rule is just a clever trick to manufacture that first inch of momentum. Habit 5. Create a recovery ritual, not just a morning ritual. Every single person who talks about discipline talks about morning routines. And yes, morning routines matter. But here's what nobody tells you. Your ability to recover after you break discipline is 10 times more important than your ability to start with it. Because you will break your routine. Life will interrupt. You'll sleep through an alarm. You'll have a horrible day and eat everything in sight. You'll miss a week of workouts because of travel or stress or just being human. What separates people who eventually build unshakable discipline from people who never get there is what happens in the hour after they fall off. Most people spiral. They miss one day and tell themselves they've already ruined it, so they might as well keep going. That thinking is the real enemy, not the initial slip. Your recovery ritual is a predetermined, specific set of actions you take the moment you notice you've gotten off track. It doesn't need to be dramatic. It can be as simple as a 5-minute walk, 1 glass of water, and writing down your intention for the next hour. The point is that you have a process for returning, and that process removes shame from the equation entirely. Habit 6. Gamify your consistency with a visual streak system. Here's where we come back to that dopamine loop I mentioned at the beginning. Your brain needs feedback loops that are frequent and visible. Waiting to feel proud of yourself after 3 months of discipline is too long. Your dopamine system needs wins sooner than that to stay engaged. This is why visual streak systems are so powerful. The concept is simple. Get a calendar. Every day you execute your non-negotiables, you mark an X on that date. After a few days, you have a chain. After a week, that chain starts to have weight. After 2 weeks, you'll feel something that surprises you. You won't want to break it. Not because the chain itself means anything logically, but because your brain has attached emotional meaning to it. That chain becomes evidence of your identity. Breaking it feels like lying to yourself, and protecting it starts to feel like protecting something valuable. You can take this further by using apps that track streaks, by sharing your streak with an accountability partner, or by creating small rewards for hitting milestone lengths. The external structure creates internal momentum. Habit 7. Master the art of strategic boredom. This is the one that sounds the strangest and does the most work underneath the surface. We live in a world where boredom has been almost completely eliminated. Every empty moment is immediately filled with a podcast, a scroll, a show, a notification. And while that might feel comfortable, it's quietly destroying your capacity for discipline. Here's why. Discipline requires delayed gratification. It requires sitting in discomfort without immediately reaching for relief. And if you never practice tolerating discomfort in small doses throughout your day, you will have zero tolerance for it when it matters most, which is when you're trying to do hard things. Strategic boredom is the practice of intentionally leaving certain moments in your day empty. No headphones on a short walk. No phone while waiting in line. No background noise while eating alone. You just sit with yourself. This sounds almost laughably simple, but what it's actually doing is rebuilding your brain's tolerance for unresolved discomfort, which is the exact same tolerance required for discipline. The person who can sit with boredom for 10 minutes is the same person who can sit with a hard task for 2 hours without reaching for distraction. They are the same skill wearing different clothes. Now let me show you how these 7 habits connect, because individually they're good, but together they become a machine. The night before decision from habit 1 feeds directly into habit 6, because when you know exactly what you're supposed to do, marking that X becomes clear and satisfying. Your identity anchor from habit 2 is what keeps you executing through the days when nothing feels motivating. The environment you design in habit 3 removes the obstacles that would otherwise stop you before the 2-minute launch. From habit 4 even gets a chance to fire. Your recovery ritual from habit 5 ensures that when you miss a day on your streak, you come back the next day instead of quitting. And the strategic boredom from habit 7 is what builds the underlying neurological tolerance that all of the other habits depend on. You can't have a strong chain of habits on a weak foundation of attention span. That foundation is what boredom practice gives you. Now I want to address the thing you might be thinking right now, which is something like, this sounds good, but I've tried building habits before, and they always fall apart. I hear that. And the reason they fall apart isn't because you're weak or undisciplined by nature. It's because most systems are built for motivation, not for systems themselves. Motivation comes and goes. It's a weather pattern, not a climate. The habits I've given you today are climate-level changes. They're not designed to inspire you. They're designed to make discipline the path of least resistance in your life, so that even on the days when you feel nothing, even on the days when you would rather do literally anything else, the structure carries you. That's the real goal here. Not becoming someone who relies on intense motivation, but becoming someone whose environment, identity, recovery process, and attention span are all so calibrated toward discipline that the disciplined choice starts to feel easier than the undisciplined one. And that is when the addiction kicks in, not to some toxic grind culture that burns you out, but to the quiet, compounding satisfaction of someone who does what they said they would do, day after day, in a way that feels almost effortless from the outside and profoundly meaningful from the inside. Start with just one of these today. Pick the one that resonated most, the one that felt like it was written for your specific struggle, and implement it tonight. Don't try to change everything at once. That's how people fail. Pick one, master it for 2 weeks, then layer in the next one. Give this system 60 days and report back in the comments below with what changed. I genuinely want to know, and if you found value here, the next video on the screen is going to go even deeper into the psychology of high performance in a way that might change how you see yourself entirely. See you there.